We are working on becoming scientifically literate with psychological research, and in this module, we are focusing on sources and the task of determining the credibility of those sources. The learning objectives for this lesson are evaluate sources to determine whether that source is credible, and understand the sources psychologists use to gather information. Once again, just a quick review of the components to become scientifically literate with psychological research. Read and evaluate media reports, find original research reports, read and understand original research reports, critique original research reports, and write scientifically to communicate your findings. When you are evaluating sources, there are two main questions you need to consider. What makes a media report credible? I will share with you some specific details to consider in answering this question. Why is it important to evaluate the credibility of what you read? Obviously, the answer here is so that you know whether you can trust the information. Let's start by considering a media report from the Economist periodical, Tall, Dark, and Stable. I'm going to walk you through the guidelines, but stop here, read this article, and then return to this video. I want you to think about the article you just read and consider for yourself what is your overall impression of the credibility of that article. How does your assessment of credibility now affect your view of the article? Do you trust the information? Why or why not? Let's look at some specific guidelines for assessing the credibility of media reports and other secondary reports of research. Who is the author of the media report? What is this person's background? What credentials or education does she or he hold? And what articles has she or he written previously, and for whom? Remember the article you reviewed in the last module? Parents can play an active role in making teens interested in math and science. Many of you listed the author of the research article that was included in the media report as the author of the media report. There was no author listed for that report. How about for the article Tall, Dark, and Stable? The author isn't listed here either, so we don't know the person's background or credentials. Sometimes the author is listed, and when it is, you need to investigate a bit to discover what you can about the author. Do you know anything about their background, about their credentials or education, about what articles he or she has written previously? All of this information may be helpful to make a decision about credibility. Often, when you are reading an article online, there is a hot link with the author's name. Other times, you have to do a search on your own to get more information about the author. Who conducted the study that is summarized in this media report? What is the person's background? What credentials or education does she or he hold? And what articles has she or he written previously, and for whom? In the article Tall, Dark, and Stable, David Kill, Amanda Forrest, and Joanne Wood are the authors. Kill is a PhD candidate at the University of Waterloo. Let's move to quality. Is the method of the research study clearly described? Is the sample of the study described? In Tall, Dark, and Stable, it sounds like the researchers did an experiment with 47 undergraduate students who were not in relationships. We don't know a great deal about the sample other than their relationship status. We also don't know if they used random assignment. Are the statements of facts supported with documented evidence and sources that are authoritative? There are a lot of statements that appear to be facts in the introduction, but they are not supported with evidence. Statements about the study are supported with summarized statements from the research article. What is the goal of this media report? Are there any links in the report to consumable goods or services? The goal of this media report seems to be to inform and entertain. There are no explicit links to furniture companies or other products. Are there assumptions and conclusions based upon the research study? Do they appear to be valid and based upon scientific rigor? One assumption is that undergraduates are representative of people in general. In research, we want to be able to generalize our findings beyond the sample, but we must always be careful with that. At this point in your study of research, let's say we wouldn't want to create too many generalizations beyond the type of participants in the sample. Another assumption is that students would know the celebrity couples. The conclusions appear to be based upon the research study. Cause and effect statements are made because the researchers conducted an experiment, and therefore these types of statements are appropriate. Remember, cause and effect can only be assumed when you use experimental research design. Does the author of the media report suggest that the audience take action as a result of this research study? Not necessarily. Does the media report contain objective language that is formal, free of bias, and free of colloquialisms? Somewhat. Some places are not entirely objective. For example, most astonishingly is not really objective. Is the media report clearly written, well organized, and free of spelling and grammar errors? It is clearly written and free of spelling and grammar errors. Let's talk now about what kinds of sources do psychologists use. The answer is empirical reports published in peer-reviewed journals. Let's be clear here that what we have been reading and examining up until now were media reports. The report from Yahoo, and now the story from The Economist. These are referred to either as media reports or secondary reports of research. However, in both cases, the original or primary sources of the research were empirical articles. So what in the world are empirical reports published in peer-reviewed journals? First, what is empirical versus non-empirical papers? Empirical papers offer original research. The authors of the article conducted the study. They are found in academic journals, not in newspapers, magazines, or blogs. They also follow a specific format: an abstract, introduction, method, results, and discussion. Non-empirical papers are anything that does not contain original research or does not present any data or findings is non-empirical. Literature reviews, these are summaries of research on a particular topic, but they are non-empirical papers because they do not present any data or findings conducted by the author of the review. Opinion pieces and editorials. All of these may be found in peer-reviewed journals, but they are not empirical articles. What then are peer-reviewed journals? Well, journals are a collection of research reports, and when these reports have been peer-reviewed, that means that a psychologist conducts a study, writes a report, and submits it to the journal. The editor of the journal sends the report blind, meaning without the author's names, to experts in the field. The experts review and critique the study and recommend that the report be rejected, revised, or published. The editor makes a decision: reject, revise, or resubmit or publish. I want you to think about the fact that as an undergraduate thinking about the credibility of sources, you can trust the credibility of an empirical article found in a peer-reviewed journal. If you find a source from a peer-reviewed journal, you should at this point in your academic career consider it to be credible. Now your assignment for this module. Of course, I want you to read and evaluate for credibility another media report. The article is titled "Feeling Depressed. This may be the thing you need to feel happier." Hint, it's not money. And it is from Glamour magazine. Now, I haven't given you the article URL because I want you to find it online. Be careful. Remember, this is from Glamour magazine. A shortcut to finding it is to search that site alone. If you are using Google, you simply start by searching glamour.com and then add the article title. Once you have found the article from that Glamour site, I want you to complete the worksheet which represents the guidelines for evaluating the credibility of sources. Finally, here is the rubric I will use to grade your worksheet. Again, this assignment is worth 10 points.